Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the office hours of 2021 Call for Code Global Challenge MIA region. And today's session, we have something special for you. So in today's session, we have a team who are the winners from Call for Code, regional winners from the MIA region in 2019. And they are going to be sharing their experience, how they journeyed through this entire challenge with us. So before I go ahead, I will try to do some housekeeping and introduce to this platform. So the platform we are on is Crowdcast, and on the top you can see your the session title, and if you click on the eye, you will be able to see the details. And in the details, you'll have the team members and the LinkedIn profiles and the idea which they submitted, and you'll also have my LinkedIn profile. So if you have any queries, you can reach out to us, and you'll also have some details and some prerequisite links which you can refer to for any FAQs you have. So moving on, what is Call for Code? So Call for Code invites developers and problem solvers around the world to build and contribute to sustainable open source software solutions that addresses social and humanitarian issues while ensuring solutions are deployed to make a real difference. So this is done in partner with the David Clark Clause. IBM is the founding partner. Then we also have United Nations Human Rights, and we also have the Linux Foundation supporting as a program affiliate. So Call for Code has now become the only global and always-on tech for good open source platform to develop and scale top projects through a host of offerings. And what would you get by joining this challenge? So you get a chance to build your skills. You get a chance to contribute to the social good. You also get a chance to put your ideas to action. So this isn't your regular hackathon where you just see your ideas being built for the challenge and then not being deployed. Here you'll have a chance to build your ideas and then deploy in the real world to solve the challenges which you're focusing on. And then you'll also be able to network with a community of 400,000 plus developers across 179 nations, and there are around 15,000 plus applications coming every year for this challenge. So the theme for this year's Call for Code challenge was climate change. And under climate change, also we had three themes. That one was clean water and sanitation. The other was zero hunger. And third was responsible production and consumption. So in clean water, we try to build solutions for farmers to recycling showers, so that technology can make a significant impact on the availability of water and its consumption. And zero hunger, we are trying to focus on the 135 million people who suffer from acute hunger, with climate change as a major contributing factor. And we were looking for ideas which can put technology to use to help grow more crops in areas on the edge of droughts, and quickly distribute perishables from small stores to local homeless shelters. And under responsible production and consumption, we were trying to focus on the worldwide consumption and production that drives the global economy, yet it is linked to the environment. So we were looking for solutions which can help make recommendations on the energy efficiency to highlight the carbon footprint of online purchases. So now I'll be introducing the team which we have for this from the smart irrigation system, and I'll be asking them a few questions, and they'll be sharing their experience throughout the challenge. So first I'll introduce the team members. So first we have Mohammed Al-Zuhari, then we have Abdul Rahman Al-Magasi, then we have Gehat Abdul Halim, then we have Amar Khalil, and then we have Abdul Rahman Amir. So welcome, guys. So you can go ahead and introduce yourself and give some background, some information about your background to the audience so that they can get familiar with you. So I'll pass on the stage to you now.
Okay. Hello, I'm Abdurrahman Amir. I was a student of computer science, and we entered the hackathon in 2019, and I mainly was I was a full stack developer, but I was mainly also the team lead.
Yeah. So hi, my name is Mohammed Al-Zuhairi. Yes, I'm also a graduate of computer science. Currently, I'm doing my master's at UM, and I was working in our project for Call for Code on the cloud and deployment stuff. Yeah. So I think you can go ahead, Amr.
Hello, I'm full stack developer. I'm Khalil. I'm full stack developer, and uh, I am doing my master's now in TUM. And I was also working partially on the front end and the back end with Get and other. Yeah, that's me.
So yeah, go ahead. No issue. Yeah.
You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry. Hello, I'm Abdurrahman Al-Mughazi. I'm also a graduate of the Computer Science and Engineering Department at the German University in Cairo in 2020. Currently, I'm a data scientist at Hura here in Egypt. And I mainly worked on the IoT and machine learning and deep learning parts of this project.
Okay. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. So as I'll try to ask you some questions and you can share your experience about your ideas and why you took up the challenge. So the question which I would like to ask first is, why do you take up this challenge? What inspired you to take on this challenge? And why did you select this particular theme?
Okay, so I can answer the second part of this question easily. Why did we take up this particular team? We all went to the same university. We're all friends. We all have the same more or less educational background, but our interests are different enough that even within like the field of computer science, everyone has different like concentrations. So it was easy. Like for example, Gehed was very interested in UI and UX, so he was more into the front end stuff. Mughazi was very interested in IoT devices, machine learning. So he helped us there. Hamad was very interested in cloud development and deployment and stuff. So he was our like CI/CD expert. That's like how we were able to choose the team and how we knew that the team was a functional one. Everyone had like a task, and we knew more or less what everyone's strengths were, what we were able to do. As for why we chose to enter the competition, to be honest, we wanted to enter the competition because we wanted to challenge ourselves at first. But I think after a while, we started to really like want to make a difference. We started to really believe in our solution, and yeah, that's it.
All right. Anyone like to add something to that? Anything you want to share? Anyone else on the team?
Yeah, so when we started in a national competition called Code Response, which is like the call for code, but for national teams in Egypt. And this is actually was like the spark that made us go into call for code and enter the competition with our solution. And yeah, after that, they really encourage you to turn your solution into a startup if possible, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right. So when you started working on this challenge, first you selected. So how did you come up to this challenge? Like this problem requires a solution. This is something which is drastically affecting people. How were you able to come to this conclusion? So could you share the process on that? Like what once you start with you figure out a problem, and then you go to the solution. But there's a whole pathway where you select the problem, you try to collect data and all. So how did you collect this data? And how did you speak to people around who are facing these issues, or did you reach out to people who had already worked in this related to this problem? So could you share your experience on that?
As for how we came up with the solution, that was the question, right? That was like the
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and how did you conclude that this problem requires an urgent action, requires an immediate action to be solved right now. This problem requires to be solved right now.
Yes, well, like we said, we started from the regional competition, Code and Response, and that particular competition had a, it's like the problem statement, or like the main theme of the hackathon was water-related natural disasters, which can range like from floods to droughts. And we chose to focus on the lack of water, the droughts, because historically Egypt has faced many droughts before, and seems to be a chance that we might experience water shortages in the future. So we wanted to somehow be able to direct our efforts to save water. So our solution was to try to find where we waste the most water and then try to waste less of it. After very small research, we found that most of Egypt's water supply actually goes into irrigation. And because we use flood irrigation for pretty much every available crop, even when it doesn't need it, which wastes a lot of water because most of it just evaporates. So our solution, after deliberating, we were brainstorming for 2 or 3 hours about this. We thought that a good solution would be a smart precision irrigation solution, where we would be able to channel the right amount of water to the plant depending on how much water it needs, and of course, that amount depends on the type of plant and not just the type of soil and the amount of the existence of that plant, the amount of availability of that plant. So that was how we came up with the solution. I have to apologize, I forgot what the rest of the question was.
Yeah, no problem. We'll ask a few more questions so that we'll break it down. The questions we'll ask much more questions so the audience is able to understand better through your experience. So you mentioned about your solution. So could you explain what your solution is in a bit detail, and what did you use? What tech stack did you use, like a mobile application or a web application, or some IoT devices? So could you go in a bit more detail about that?
Yeah, sure. So the device consisted of multiple components that were all separate and just were able to communicate with each other, talk with each other. The main components would have to be, I guess, the IoT device, which I'm sure Moghazi can explain much better than I, so I'll let him take the reins on that one.
May I say we can use
Sure.
the diagram? Can we use the diagram from the?
I think we can.
Yes.
Yes. So for the IoT devices, we used many IoT devices which are scattered in the field. So first we divide the field into chunks or partitions, and each partition can have a different type of plants, plant species. And for each partition, we have an IoT unit. This IoT unit can measure the moisture level or the water content of the soil, so that we can monitor the plant.
Hi, I'm having some disturbance. I'm not able to hear. So could you just check your audio, or could you just refresh whatever fixes this issue? So we are having some disturbance from your side. We're not able to understand. So
okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
There was still some disturbance.
What kind of disturbance? Sound or?
Yeah, your voice keeps breaking, so I'm not actually able to hear you. Okay, I think it's getting a bit better.
Okay.
We could try to explain it ourselves, but like I said, Moghazi will be able to explain it better. So the IoT device, what Moghazi said was we would split a field full of crops into small partitions that we would call the grid, the whole thing together. And then we place one or more of the IoT device in the grid. It had a moisture sensor that would measure the moisture of the soil. And depending on that moisture, it would provide exactly the amount of water that this particular plant needs. So it doesn't ever give it too much water, and it makes sure it doesn't have too little. And of course, we split into a field into grid because a field doesn't need to have the same crop all across. It can be split into multiple parts, and we split it into a grid, and each grid is a small defined area where only one plant grows. So we can monitor and know exactly what that plant needs. The IoT device itself consisted of a moisture sensor, a water pump, and a few other devices. I think there was like an Arduino that connected to the internet. And honestly, like I say,
pH sensor, I think.
no, we didn't do the pH sensor.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
It's still distorted.
Yes.
Yeah, you can turn off your video so that your audio could be better, so the bandwidth won't get divided.
Okay.
If that
No
makes
problem.
it better.
You can hear me now better, or this is the same?
It's a bit better. Yeah, it's a bit better.
Okay. So I think Abdurrahman explained that.
Yeah, you can go ahead and explain it again. There's no problem. You can add your points to it also. No issues.
Okay, so I was saying that we partitioned the land into big or small chunks, so according to the needs of the land, and each partition or each chunk of the land contained an IoT device. Those devices are independent; they are separate from each other, so they just communicate with the server. So if one failed, the others will still work. So this is the main idea. They are very simple. They are cheap because for large lands we didn't want to spend a huge amount of money. That's why we kept it as simple as possible. We didn't go to the pH sensor because it was very expensive, about 800 Egyptian pounds. So we just used the simplified and minimal design that contained only the water moisture sensor, the water pump that just irrigates the land according to the specific amount of water that this type of plant needs at this time, according to the readings from the moisture sensor.
So, do you have more explanation on the more slides on the explanation of the device, like where you can showcase your product, the final product? And
Yes.
So,
yes, we started with the one on the left in the hackathon. We wanted to make it as simple as possible because we didn't have enough time. It's very important to plan according to the time you had in the competition. So on the left, we started with a very simple Arduino that didn't even communicate with the server, but it was just a proof of concept. Then we migrated to the one on the left. The one on the left has a schematic in the middle where it contains the water moisture sensor on the left here and a node MCU that communicates with the server. It also contains a water pump, the one on the bottom right, and just a simple LiPo battery. The Raspberry Pi part was an optional part that can be used on a drone or something with a machine learning algorithm to detect the type of plant and survey if there are pests and diseases or plant wilt or things like that.
Right. So you have built an amazing solution, and so we wanted to understand how do you divide the roles between your team. So you had a team, 5 people in your team. How do you divide the tasks, and on what basis do you divide, and how important is the team collaboration in this such a project? So could you explain this from your own experience, so that the audience is able to understand how to manage with the team, how to collaborate with their team members, and how to divide the tasks. So you could share your experience on working with each other, something which that could really help the audience understand how to collaborate.
Yeah, so I think what we did first is that there are like brainstorming sessions where you decide how are you going to implement the idea. And in these sessions, so you should always consider that you are implementing a prototype. It's not a final product. So you just want to showcase your idea and prove that it works. And also, if you can just have like a very niche estimate about the business aspects, for example, the cost of the solution, or let's say the values that it will give to the consumer, for example, or the problems that will solve. This is also very beneficial at the beginning. And yeah, so in the brainstorming sessions, you architect what are you going to do, and also you just say, for example, we want this prototype to achieve a certain target, and after that you split the work based on, let's say, your interest or experience. And yeah, then you start working. When we worked at the beginning, we didn't work together, we worked independently. Each one of us was working on a certain aspect, and at the end we were combining stuff together, so we wanted everything to interact with each other. This is when we sat together to make it work.
Mm-hmm. The fact that everyone in the team had a different interest made working on the product much easier, because everyone was working in parallel rather than waiting for someone else.
Right. So you have explained how your solution works, and what the problem you're focusing on, what the solution works, and how you build the prototype and how you collaborated with your team. So now all these things are very important. Now something that is really important before for the challenge is the submission. With all this coming into play, so can you explain your journey in the submission process? What are the things that are required, and how did you work around that, and figure out how to present your idea? So some tips and tricks which could help our participants this year.
I remember there being certain submission criteria. One of them that really irked me was the creativity criteria, because I thought that being 100% creative was impossible. But then I realized, for example, that creativity doesn't necessarily mean that you're 100% new or 100% unique. It just means that you're able to distinguish yourself enough from other established solutions or products. And once you realize that, you can start actually working on what you want to work on rather than what you think might be best. So yeah, that was one of the criteria. Another one, I guess, was the completeness criteria, which again doesn't really mean that the product has to be like 100% complete or functional. It just means that the product has to be a minimum viable product. It has to do what it says it does. It doesn't have to do it perfectly. As long as there is room for improvement, then you still satisfy the completeness criteria. Let's see. There was the design and usability criteria, which is mainly just UX. So you want to make sure that your product looks appealing, and that your product isn't counterintuitive. Like if you swipe left on an app, it doesn't go to the right and stuff like that. And yeah, again, this is very hard to implement in a minimum viable product, but it is necessary to make sure that it's just as that it's as intuitive as it can be, even when it's just an MVP. Yeah, I think I hit them all.
Yeah, another thing I want to add is that you, for example, they stress too much on for example, the documentation part. So if you have a software solution, you have a source code on, for example, GitHub or GitLab, it's very important to document your solution and have a very detailed documentation. So it should explain the problem, the idea, and a very detailed implementation. So where each of your stuff go. And yeah, there's also the video that you submit, which is like, I think, a 3-minute video.
Yes, 3 minutes.
Yes. So in this video, you'll have to talk about the idea and the problem that you're trying to solve, and also like precise, not too much details, but precise and brief, like information about your implementation. Let's say this. So I think in our case, we splitted our video like in 50-50. So the first part, we talked about the idea and the problem, and second part were focused only on the implementation part. Mm-hmm. There's also like a hint of business aspects, so they should know that you consider the business aspect as well. Because if everything goes well and you win the competition, the global competition, your idea should be turned into a startup, and they will help you develop this as well.
Right. So you mentioned about the business model that is very important. and that is something you really focused on. So could you explain your business model and how you worked around that, and how you came up? Did you refer to someone who had experience with this sort of solutions, who are in the market, and how you would build, how this solution would be feasible to your consumers?
Yes. So coming up with the business model implies I need to actually first realize who are the stakeholders. So I need to know who my product is affecting. So indirectly, our product would affect victims of droughts, and those are the people we want to affect. We want to help those. But the people who can actually help us keep the product sustainable are farmers or agricultural engineers, which own like large plots of land. And the other stakeholder would be private garden owners, like a person with a small garden or even a small plot of land that he wants to maintain without while maintaining convenience. He doesn't want to spend too much money. So those are the two customer segments that we're most interested in. So in order to tackle that, we decided, with the help of some of the IBM mentors in the code and response competition, we decided that we would go for a two-tier subscription model. The two-tier subscription model would provide, the first tier would be for like big corporates, which would apply for the farmers and agriculture. So if you have a big plot of land, you would have to pay more to get the same service. But you get the product at a higher efficiency because it's a much larger piece of land. And if you're a private garden owner, you can pay a small subscription and get the same product, but at a lower price because you don't have to maintain large plots of land. You don't have to produce crops. You don't have to do any of that.
Okay. And so in this entire journey, you mentioned you refer to mentors and all. So how did you reach out to mentors? How did you find these people who could share their knowledge on this area, or how did you find the right people who could share the knowledge and the experience with you, which helped you in your solution? Basically, how do you network with the mentors? How did you find them out? Because that is really important in your guidance, towards to building a solution. So how were you able to reach out to such people?
We were lucky enough because when we joined the Code and Response hackathon in Egypt, there were a lot of IBM employees and personnel, rather, like not just like employees. There were also like regional managers and stuff like that. There was like really important people in the room there. So and because the amount of teams competing in the regional competition wasn't that big, it was like maybe 20. We were able to get a lot of advice from all the people around. We were able to go around and ask them what they think of our solution. And none of us, all five of us, none of us have a business oriented background. We have no idea what to do in that. Like if we make a product, we sell it, but we don't know for how much. But yeah, they helped us and they told us, oh no, you can't sell this. If you sell this, it's not sustainable. You need to maintain it and stuff like that. And honestly, like I said, we were lucky. We were lucky that we were able to find those mentors in the hackathon, within like the same building, rather.
Yeah, and also in the general case, if you weren't as lucky as we are, you can just talk to your family, friends. You can talk to people, for example, LinkedIn. I think you can reach to anyone and have like a feedback from them, an honest feedback on your prototype and your idea. And yeah, if you know something in the business, he can also give you some guidance about, let's say, your business model, who are the customers you are targeting, all these kinds of stuff.
Yeah, social networks are important, even if they're friends and family. You can like find connections that you wouldn't have known were there.
Right.
Yeah, I read also that you might try to ask research centers and professors working on similar projects for research purposes, and try to see if they can help in this kind of competition and formalizing the idea.
Right. So for our audience here, I'm sharing this link to the Slack channel, so you can always reach out to anyone any person who can help you. You can reach out to people. You can reach out to mentors over here who will be willing to help you out with your technical difficulties. And as the team mentioned, didn't have a business background, so we have people with lots of experience in different domains. So you can always reach out to these people using the Slack channel. I've shared the link in the chat section, so you can network because. As they mentioned, they had the opportunity to be in the building where the mentors were available. But right now, because given the current situation, it is tough to reach out to people in person. You can always try to reach out to them virtually, like the team mentioned on LinkedIn through social network, basically. And we also have the Slack channel, which I've shared the link, so you can go ahead. You can reach out to these people different mentors with your queries. I think someone has shared their query, and you can definitely reach out to us on the Slack channel, and we'll be glad to help you out. So moving on, what are the next steps? How do you plan to make the solution sustainable or profitable, or how do you want to take this idea from here? What is the scope of this project right now? How do you see it?
Go ahead.
Well, in our case, it got a bit complicated. We joined the competition in 2019, and then Mohammed and I both went to do our masters in Germany, and Amr had to do his military service in Egypt, and like the team fell apart very quickly. But we do still plan on improving the project and maybe even entering into the competition again with an improved version in order to realize it. We want to make it a startup because we do believe that this solution is beneficial. But then again, we do need to improve it significantly if we want to enter it again.
Right. Yeah, definitely hoping to see your project again, and definitely want to see it being deployed to consumers and see them benefit from your idea, and solve this problem of irrigation which we are facing worldwide. So to conclude, actually, I just want to understand if you have any suggestions for our participants from your experience, what they should focus on as we are approaching the deadline, and how they could take their project ahead from just after the competition, not just just to the competition, after the competition, how they could work on this project. So if you have some tips and suggestions, which I think you might have which you would definitely have, so please you could share that with us and our audience.
Do you want to go ahead?
Sure.
You can even share any slides if you have related to that, and you could share support your answer with that if that helps you.
Okay. Should we share, or do you have the slides? Should we share? Should we share from our side?
Yeah, I think Naira could share it. No worries. We can have Naira share the slides. She was sharing it a while ago, so we'll just Naira, please could you share the slides? Yeah.
Yes. I guess last 3 slides.
Yeah.
Yes, right there. Something we have to say that we've already discussed is that team diversity is important. Sure, we all have the same background, but it is important. Like if you all have the same background and you're all interested in, for example, front-end development, then no one will make the server that's required to crunch the numbers in the back end, right?
Or let's say it will take you time to learn.
Or it will take you time to learn, exactly. So team diversity is not just important, it's almost necessary. One other thing is that you should use changes in your environment to inform your solution. So like I said, in our case, we were worried about water shortages in Egypt, and that was the main drive of our solution. It wasn't necessarily the problem statement. We started considering like our immediate environment, our immediate surroundings, and that informed us to make a solution that we were actually passionate about. Can we go to the next slide? Because thank you. There is something that I recently learned, which is called effectual reasoning, which means to rather than try to consider the goal and work your way up to the goal, you should actually work with what you have. So see what you can use to achieve that goal, and then create your product depending on your current resources. These resources can range from anything, like we said, your social networks, which can be just your friends and family. Even if you don't know anyone, they can still help. And your experience and knowledge in whatever field you're working in. In our case, it was computer science and a lot of computer science adjacent fields.
Yeah, and you can add the changes in the environment as well in here.
Exactly.
So
another thing which is related to prototyping, your product doesn't have to be the final perfect, like glistening product. It doesn't need to be complete. It just needs to function and do what it says it does. You can complete it later. And when you're trying to complete it, you'd much rather prototype along the way because you want to fail, so you know where you failed and improve on that. Fail fast and fail often. That's what we say. Yeah, and of course, always listen to what everyone says. So if you have an idea that you're not sure of, ask your teammates, and not just your teammates, ask people around you. If you're in an environment where you can ask other teams what they think. They might give you feedback that would make you change your whole direction, maybe. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I think everything else we already talked about.
Yeah, more.
I think I think I might stress on the idea of making use of the time and planning the time well. Trying to assess if you have enough time to add another feature or not. Keep the unimportant features to the end and try to make the application as visually appealing as possible, because if we say about judges and investors and maybe incubators and things, all the sorts of things, they care about the user experience. So if the user experience isn't great in using the app or the application or the software solution itself, so I think it might fail, or at least it might take more time to succeed. So from the early beginning, one should plan to make the solution visually appealing and usable, and increase the usability of the solution for the target audience, for the target customers.
Right.
I would add that you should also spare some time for the video. I guess if you made don't lose your good idea, and don't undermine your good idea and your good work with the bad video. Make a good video that explains clearly what you did.
Yeah, a video shouldn't be done in a day. It should it should take its time. It's a 3-minute video, I know, but trust me, those 3 minutes in editing can take hours.
Not just editing. Do you remember shooting the video? It was horrible. We take hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that's an excellent point. These are excellent suggestions, and I hope our audience are able to take the suggestions and able to implement them in their solution. So thank you so much. I think these are the round of questions I had for you, and it was really interesting to chat with you, understand your solution, and understand your whole journey throughout this entire challenge. And once again, congratulations on the win, and thank you for sharing this experience, and thank you for joining us today. So for our audience, I'll just try to recap whatever has been covered. So if you have joined right now, so we are approaching to the end of the call for code submission deadline, which is July 31st. So we have around 5 days and 14 hours left for the challenge to end. And right now, you could still join the challenge and build your solution, and you could take the feedback and suggestions from the session which the team has shared, from learning from their journey. So some tips, to summarize, I'll just try to summarize what they have said. So try to clearly map your solution to a real problem, as remember the central goal. It is to find high quality sustainable solutions to help address climate change. So you need to make sure your entry describes the real world problem that your application solves in one of the 3 global focus areas of this year's competition. Next, try to make it clear how your solution is unique. So you have limited time to make your solutions stand out. So think about what makes it distinctive. So as part of the judging criteria, your submission will be scored based on your creativity and innovation in creating a unique approach to solving a climate change problem. And third, which the team highlighted is very and stressed on it is very important, is create an engaging 3-minute video. So the most powerful way to get your idea across quickly and make an impression on the different types of judges, the technical judges, the subject matter expert judges, and the eminent judges, is to submit a compelling video. So invest your time in putting together your 3-minute video so that it tells the story of your submission. You could you can try to make sure you focus on the problem, and then you could then highlight the solution you're trying to solve, because sometimes a 3-minute video can make all the difference in the world, trying to distinguish yourself from your competition. So this is some tips which I try to summarize from what the team had shared, and I just try to highlight them again. And lastly, I would just try to another tip which I've really forgot, I would try to highlight is document your solution and your code repository, because that is, you need to make sure it's consistent throughout, and the code is consistent, and the quality of a demonstration is also very important. So you should have a clear roadmap describing the vision for what you have built, and your code should support your solution, how it works in the solution, and you can have additional diagrams and installation steps. So these are some tips which you can follow while submitting your solutions. And if you have any queries, we are open for questions right now to me or to the team, and we will definitely try our best to help you out in the session. So you can drop your questions in the chat section, or you can also use the ask a question feature to ask your questions, and we'll try to answer your questions over here. So please feel free to go ahead and put up your questions over here. So we'll give you a few minutes so that we can start. We'll start waiting for your questions right now.
Any tips for CI/CD and deployment? Yeah, that's yours. Go ahead.
Okay, so in our case, so I think it was a requirement in our case to use like 2 services of
two IBM services.
2 IBM services, yes. So if you are going to deploy on IBM Cloud, for example, or use like IBM Kubernetes engine or something like that, just get familiar with the platform, because if you are used to deploying anywhere else, you will have to just get acquainted with the platform a little bit. And yeah, just don't overdo it. So because I did.
Start with a simpler project. Make sure you understand the architecture, the platform, and then then you can deploy your project.
Yeah, you can just use like a normal CI/CD, and after that you can just automate everything in for example IBM Cloud. There are also some services that might help you out, which is I think IBM Cloud Foundry. If you have like you can make something like pre-made and install things very easy and very fast.
Right. So yeah. Yes, we are available for pair programming also. We can help you debug your code. You can just reach out to us on the Slack channel. But you need to be registered for the challenge to enter the Slack channel. That is something we noticed in the chat. Some people were not able to enter. It's probably because they haven't registered for the challenge. So if you want to reach out to us on Slack, please make sure you're registered for the Call for Code challenge, and you'll get an invitation to join the Slack channel, and then you could reach out to us for any queries. So yes, if you have any more questions, please feel free to put them in the chat section, and we'll try to, or in the ask a question session, and we'll try our best to respond to them. So I think there are no more questions here. So thank you again for joining us and sharing your experience throughout this journey. For our audience, the session will be available on the same link, and it is also available on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and LinkedIn, for which Naira has shared the links in the chat section. So you can go ahead, if you're having trouble with Crowdcast, you can go ahead and see the session on those links. The links will remain the same even after the live stream ends. It'll be the same link as now, so you can always watch the replays, and you can find anything which you have missed. You can just try to replay and cover that up, and you can always refer to the suggestions which the team has shared, which are very helpful, and definitely I think you should implement them while use it as a checklist while submitting your solution. And if there are no questions, we can end the session, and we'll be sending all the links and everything in a follow-up email, so that so if you have missed them out in the chat, no worries, you'll always get them in the email. And if you have friends who have missed this session, so you can always share this link with them and the other links from the other platforms, so they can go ahead and they can recap the session and they can get answers to their queries. So yeah, that's the conclusion of the session. So yes, best of luck for your solution, and feel free to reach out to us with any queries you have. And the team's LinkedIn profile links have been also shared in the chat section. Even my LinkedIn profile link is also there, so you can drop us a message anytime, and I think they will all be glad to help you out. So thank you once again for joining. Stay safe, everyone, and best of luck for your solutions.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.